Good evening, this is Kevin Merrill, and I just want to talk a little bit tonight about the three videos that we watched on brainstorming, uh, dancing or helping, and being homesick, and the three counselors and the clients and how the sessions went, and talk a little bit about the similarities and differences, some of the skills that have been used, and a question that I've got on the back end, kind of about all three. Um, To start with, there was a number of skills that were used throughout: open-ended questions, encouragers, closed questions, paraphrasing, reflections of feeling and meaning, and summary. Um, Referring to all three counselors, all three did a good job of paying attention, which is another skill. Um, Checking for understanding. All three took a opportunity at some point just to make sure they were getting what the client was saying. And using attentive silence. When they were not asking a question or using encouragers, as we'll get to in a second, they were attentively silent and listening to what the client had to say. So that's kind of something they all had in common. Some of the other similarities were open-ended questions. So this was something that was used somewhat throughout all three. It was more prevalent in dancing or helping and homesick. You saw this question being used quite a bit, and it gives the client an opportunity to really give an answer, think, develop their answer, and kind of spell out for the counselor really what they're thinking, where they're at with the situation, where they're at with that particular question, and gives them an opportunity maybe not to just shut down and say yes or no, which is what you'd see in a closed question. So closed questions were used maybe once during dancing or helping, and then you saw it briefly again, maybe a little more in homesick, and due to the short amount of time in brainstorm, I didn't really notice any yes or no questions. Everything kind of had possibly danced into that territory a little bit with just a brief answer. Back to talking about encouragers. Throughout each of the counselors' sessions with their clients, there were different forms of it, but throughout each, you saw examples of yes, I understand what you're saying. Comments like that kept the conversation going and encouraged the client to keep going with the conversation. When it came to paraphrasing, brainstorm was the one that really stood out, where the counselor took what the gentleman was saying and really did paraphrase his thoughts and get it out there. Reflection of feeling and meaning. Reflection of the emotions or reflection of feeling was very prevalent during homesick, and reflection of meaning was seen throughout, where they developed the issue and made sure everybody understood, hey, is this the issue we're referring to? When it came to summary, it was kind of limited throughout, where it really hit on everything from the facts to the emotions and really just summarized the whole thing. It was there, but it wasn't in depth, and I think this is mostly due to the fact that this wasn't a 50-minute hour. This was more of a 4 or 5 minute session, a snippet of a glimpse into what it would look like. So as far as whether or not this is what I expected, this is what you expect for the short amount of time that you're seeing into it. What I'm a little more accustomed to is longer sessions that do have the opening, they do have the assessment, it does have identification of the problem, figuring out how we're going to intervene with that, what is the progress we are intending to make, and where do we go from here, and some type of closure, generally through summary at the end of the session. So, I mean, it's mostly what I expected it to be for the amount of time that it was. Question that I have is mostly, and I've got a perspective on this, but open-ended questions versus closed questions. What do some of you think are the better ways to use these two skills in tandem? For example, when do you think open-ended questions should be used, and when do you think closed questions could be used? My perspective on it personally is that both have their place. Both are very effective tools, and used effectively, they can be very productive for the counseling process. Look forward to what each and every one of you has to say. Have a good evening.